Welcome to the Hangar Z podcast, brought to you by Vertical Helicast and in partnership with Vertical Valor magazine. This episode of the Hangar Z podcast was recorded in Amsterdam on the floor of European Rotors at the MHM Publishing podcast booth. In this episode, I get to sit down with Cal Meeker, founder of Meeker Aviation. Just about every public safety aviation mission would not be possible without the external payload mounts produced by Meeker Aviation that secure mission equipment to our aircraft. During the conversation, Cal shares his journey in the aviation industry, particularly in public safety. The conversation covers Cal's early experiences with helicopters, the challenges of starting a business, and the importance of commitment and sacrifice, along with the evolution of public safety mission equipment. Cal also discusses his passion for racing and how it intersects with his work in aviation, as well as the complexities of product development and the significance of quality in public safety aviation. In this conversation, Cal also discusses his innovative design practices, some of the challenges faced in his projects, and the importance of engaging the next generation of aviators. Thank you to our sponsors, Anodyne Electronics Manufacturing, Metro Aviation, and Shotover.
Welcome to the Hangar Z podcast, brought to you by Vertical Helicasts. The Hangar Z podcast is the first and only podcast dedicated to promoting and exploring the personnel and equipment behind the missions in public safety aviation. Join your host, John Gray, Jeff Ratkovich, and Jack Shanley.
Still southbound, skidding to a stop. Stand by here. Looks like they're getting ready to bail. Heads up, guys, bailing. Okay, the guy, he's running through the house, jumping the fence, threw the shotgun, threw something out. Grabbing the shotgun. Don't go over that fence. Don't go over that fence. Grab the shotgun again. He is armed. Stay there. Hold your position.
4 on the stop. You're in custody.
They're advising code 4 on the stop.
Hey, welcome to the Hangar Z podcast. I'm your host, John Gray, coming to you from European Rotors in Amsterdam. This is amazing.
Yes.
I've been with our guests in many places throughout the United States, and we had to come all the way across the ocean to pin you down.
Pin me down.
To get you in the seat to record with.
I was trying to avoid it as long as I could.
Man, you've got such an interesting background. You've done some really, really great stuff for the public safety aviation community through the ingenuity that you employ with your awesome products. I want to talk about European Rotors just briefly before I introduce you.
Okay.
This is the first time I've been to Europe, and this is the first time I've been to European Rotors as a result. So having not been to Europe before,
right,
and being here now with this group it's awesome. You know, it's interesting because I feel I'm in a foreign land, but it feels so normal because of our community. You know, I see a lot of the same faces here that I see everywhere else. There are a lot of new faces, a lot of different faces.
Yeah.
But it's comforting to feel like while I'm somewhere different, it's very similar.
Very similar. That's kind of the beauty of, I would say, aviation. You know?
Yeah.
I think I've worked in something like 28 different countries, and people would always say, well, how many different languages you got? I go, I have one, aviation.
You
know, I've been some of the weirdest places you could ever think of, and we're still talking English, we're talking aviation, and that's the same feel, you know, everyone's in that community.
Yeah.
Right.
It's awesome.
And in helicopters, it's even more so.
Yeah.
Right. Because then you have that helicopter language.
Right.
Right. And you can't fake it.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, being here is amazing. So the first time, before I introduce you again,
Yep.
the first time I sat with our guest was at a bar in Savannah, Georgia. It was at APSCON.
APSCON, yeah.
And that particular location, looking back, is probably my favorite location. I love Savannah, Georgia. It's a beautiful city. A lot of historical artifacts there. It's just a neat place. CNC was a fairly new company at the time, and they hosted a party. And I ended up sitting next to you, Steve Alvo, Eric Widener, and a handful of other folks at a bar at a CNC party.
Right.
And I'm very young in aviation at the time, and I just sit back and listen to you tell this amazingly interesting story about your life and some of the things that you've done. Talking about a small world, you've done a lot of work with the Ontario Police Department.
Lots.
You know Eric Widener very well.
Yes.
So it's just crazy when you look at how small, like you said, the community is and how much crossover there's been. We've crossed paths many times outside of APSCON unknowingly, you know.
Yeah.
So for the folks that are listening, I'd like to introduce Cal Meeker. You probably, if you look at your aircraft right now, you have a handful of mission equipment that's hanging off of one of Cal's mounts.
Yeah.
So Cal, thank you for joining us.
Sure, no problem.
I don't know how we convinced you to sit down here, but we did. So thank you. If you could just introduce yourself a little bit, tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Yeah, we started Meeker Aviation 1997 on one product, which was the door hinge kit for the MD500. And going back, I started working on helicopters when I was like 17, 18, right out of high school. And I come from a logging family, so we always had helicopters around like trucks.
Yeah.
So they were always in my community. I was a typical airport bum kid, you know, cleaning up around guys with 500s. And I can remember when the 350 first showed up, this type of thing, and llamas and gazelles. And
Yeah.
so when I got out of high school and went right into trade school for structures.
Okay.
I'm a structures guy, metal guy by trade. And right out of that school, which was now would be BCIT. So, which is, if you're Canadian, you would know, British Columbia kids. That's why a lot of the structure guys are so good out of Vancouver, because we came out of the same school.
Okay.
So anyways, finished that, and then was immediately went to field aviation in Calgary doing fixed wing heavy D checks, 727 Hercs, Electras, and then onward to helicopter welders doing overhauls, and then eventually different aviation companies, and finally was basically the first full-time employee for Dart, and they did a lot of the aftermarket mods and bear paws and skis and baskets, this type of thing. And that's when I saw a little bit of an area for a new piece of product, which was the door hinge kit for the MD500, which was very difficult to take the doors off. Made an STC of my own, my first, and then took it to a Heli Expo. And at the time, I was working for Airbus, Eurocopter Canada. I would run back and forth between their booth and my booth, because the CEO at the time was a really nice guy to me, Mike Lavoie. And he said, don't worry about it, just be there. And I said, yep, we'll do it. And got home, and I got all these POs. And I was so green, I didn't, it was like, now what do I do? I have no money. I couldn't buy, and U.S. Customs, U.S. Border Patrol was one of our very first customers, and I couldn't buy the raw materials. So I went to the bank, and I said, look, and they said, well, you have no collateral. We can't help you. And I'm knocking all the big banker doors, and finally I'm at the CIBC, the big bank there in Canada, and the guy goes, what do you have? I had nothing. I said, but I have these purchase orders. And he goes, give me those. And I go, why? And he goes, well, Ontario PD, LAPD, U.S. Customs, Dallas, Texas DPS. And he's going, how much money do you need? And I go, why? He goes, that's as good as money to me.
Yeah.
And that's where it started.
Yeah.
So I borrowed money once from the bank, and that was it. And because he said, I said, I need 50,000 or whatever it was. And he goes, no, I'll give you double.
Wow.
And he goes, I've seen more guys like you get just to the point and then run out of money again. So it was 100,000, took that, and it worked. Just got to the limit of the money. And then then you have nothing again. You got to, pay the debt off. And then the door kit became very popular with U.S. police, particularly the SoCal, the LA basin.
Yeah.
And I'd come down, and I would offer the kit, and I would say, okay, you buy the kit, I'll install it on site. So then I would go to these different law enforcement agencies, because they just went crazy for this doors off on a 500. That was, the aircraft of trade for law enforcement.
Yeah.
And I'd go through all these different agencies. And this is where we started that's where I started my company. Those were my first customers, were all law enforcement. And then, because I was there doing the work and sleeping in my car and back, and did a lot of that. And then,
let's pause there, because that's a part of the story that shows me how much you care about what you do, and how driven you were to succeed. A lot of people don't like being uncomfortable, and that oftentimes it doesn't include sleeping in a car.
Yeah.
You're so committed to what you're doing that you did everything you possibly could to stretch the dollar as far as it could possibly go.
Yeah.
And you would sleep literally in your car outside of the Ontario PD hangar. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, it was. I didn't really come from my side of the family. We didn't have anything extra. It was, not much. But I had one very wealthy uncle, and I remember before I went to the bank, I went to him, and he goes, "Look, I don't lend money to family and friends. Period. But he goes, 2 pieces of advice. He goes, I don't care if you eat ramen noodles or sleep in your car. Never borrow money from your family or your friends, and don't live outside your means. So I thought that's what I did. So I got the first loan, paid it off, then was back to zero. Okay, so I never borrowed it again, and I never got ahead of myself. So I was like, well, sleep in the car.
Wow.
Because it's going to, so I would sleep in the car like 5-6 days a week, and then I go to Motel 6, and then, have a real shower, because I used to shower at the gyms. I have a real shower. Or shower in the super truck car wash. True story. You got to take the wand, do the car, and then put it up in the air. Because in Southern California, it's not, it's pretty nice out, right? So I've done that many times. And yeah, and then, then go to work and do the installs. And so you just, when you don't come from a lot and don't have a lot and you're by yourself, there's only one way up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're enjoying life because you're doing what you want.
Yeah.
And no one's telling you to do anything different.
Right.
You're meeting all these new guys. And that's the beautiful thing, helicopter business, like we're discussing, is this family, even though you don't know people, but if you start talking the talk, but then in law enforcement, you get, that's really tight.
Super tight, yeah.
And everybody's on the same team.
Yeah.
Because it's not like the commercial guys where it's a little bit, there's no competition between law enforcement agencies.
Right.
So if we make a good job and make a good product, they're going to tell the next guy, and this is how it got going. Yeah. Right. And then, so I'd be on site, and these guys would come along, well, that's a cute door kit. Can you make us a mount that don't shake? So we started doing some basic mounts for searchlights and cameras. And there was one other guy, Scott Herring, was doing a lot of the film work. And I knew him, and he knew of me, but we had never met. And we met over a cup of coffee one day, and we just hit it off, and, here we are 25 years still working together. Wow. We did it on a handshake, never had anything on paper. And, Scott's probably the smartest design engineer I've ever met by some margin. And if I could think it, he could make it, take my thoughts into reality and make a beautiful product. Yeah. So I'd give him an idea, and he'd run off and come back and dovetails and quick disconnects and big mounts and little mounts. And that's wild. Because I said, you can make it, I can sell it. Yeah. Because I know there's a market. Yeah. So yeah, and it just kind of took off from there. So we took over on the the film work side, because a lot of helicopter guys don't understand how big that side of that business is. Right. Because they rarely come to the shows. That's not their,
out of the industry. You typically go to the APSA, something that's directly related to law enforcement.
Yes. Yeah. So you don't get the same crowd, and these guys just once in a while will show up. So the production market, the TV market, the entertainment market, we had last 2 weeks, we were in Austin, Texas for the Formula One. I'm meeting with Formula One management.
No, we got to pause right there. We're big Formula One fans. Yeah. We love that industry. Can you talk about what you're doing with Formula One? Because that's super interesting.
Thanks to our sponsor, Anodyne Electronics Manufacturing, a leading manufacturer of trusted special mission avionics for law enforcement, aerial firefighting, and utility operators. Visit www.aem-corp.com and learn how AEM's digital communication and loudspeaker systems, avionics consoles, radios, and specialty audio products can support your most demanding missions.
Oh, yeah, the car things. Yeah, because it cracks me up, because people come over now and they see the car collection and stuff like that, and I go, well, no one was giving me a big high five when I was sleeping in the back of my truck, right? On a floaty mattress, which I still have to this day. And so, so the Formula One, yeah. So I race Formula One vintage cars, vintage Le Mans, vintage Formula One cars, and then we also, from a business aspect, we sell the mounts to Formula One management, FOM, and Dorna, there's MotoGP, WRC, IMSA. Oh, it just goes on and on.
That's wild.
And that's, sometimes I don't even know what they're doing with it. Yeah. Right, because they get moved around so much.
So we watched the Drive to Survive, the F1 series. Yeah. And the one thing that stuck out to me that really pertained to aviation was the precision that's involved with what they're doing. Yeah. Precision in aviation and precision in driving, in particular racing, it's kind of the same idea. So it's really interesting that you're in both of those markets. You know, I guess part of it's out of your passion for racing and driving, but also your passion for aviation. What was your goal to go to F1 and start producing that stuff, or was that a byproduct of your passion to drive?
I was just a kind of a, you know, I grew up in my day was Gilles Villeneuve, the Canadian, you know, the best Canadian, you know, driver ever that we ever produced in Canada, and I grew up when he was at his peak. So when I was getting into it, he was, you know, a Canadian kid watching the best driver in the world was a Canadian guy. So that kind of got me into it. And then I've always followed. I liked motorsports and cars, always have, because you never could afford anything. Right. So I was always on the borderline and going up to the local track and just watching. I never thought I'd ever sit in a car. So just to be able to, you know, never mind race one and be good at it, but just to sit in a car and drive it. So it's, and, you know, it's the ultimate.
Wow.
Yeah. It's not even hard. I wish more people could have the chance to experience what that feels like, but it's, you know, you can't, most guys can't fit.
Yeah.
You know,
right.
And then, you know, that's the problem with the skill thing is that I could put anybody in the car. The car is not hard to drive, but it's hard to make it work. By that, I mean, to get to the level to drive the car, to get the brakes and the tires to the right temperature, because the first 2 laps in a Formula 1 car is the scariest thing you'll ever do. Once it gets warm, you know, it'd be easier for me to go out, do 5 laps, get it all cooked up to temperature, and then say, now go. Jump in the car and go.
Yeah.
Well, it's still hot, right? Because that's the problem, to get things hot.
That's why in the beginning of the race, you see them making the S turns, trying to warm the tires up.
And that, and then doing the brake check on the tires, getting the tires in the heat as much as you can. We're not allowed to race with tire warmers.
Okay.
The modern guys are. We're not allowed to use that. So that's a huge, you know, we have to go out cold.
So I love you kind of brush over the fact that you're racing. You know, you're super humble. That's one of the things I love about you. Can you talk about your racing career and some of the things you've accomplished through that?
Oh, yeah. I never had enough money to do it. And then, you know, when you grow up kind of poor, when I started making money from helicopter camera mounts and such, well, I always banked it. And then there was a kind of a tragic accident in Phoenix, which some people remember, when the 2 TV helicopters had a midair. And that was a flight I was supposed to be on.
Wow.
And ever since that day, it was like, and I only missed it by minutes because it was a high-speed chase. They kind of left without me, and they never came back. And that was the day it was like, you know what? I'm not saving money anymore.
Yeah.
Right, because it was that close.
Yeah,
really, really close. So then I went to race school because I was just kind of doing, local weekend, take my BMW street car out and try to look cool. And then I went to race school at Skippy Barber at Laguna Seca, and some of the instructors kind of like, yeah, you might think about doing this a little more seriously because you're quick. So then that got me going. I did some MX-5 monster racing, and I didn't like it because it's me and a bunch of kids. I could have been all their dads. And a friend of mine took me up to Monterey for Car Week and the Rolex reunion, and I had no idea they raced vintage cars.
Wow.
And I saw it with my eyes. I go, this is it. I got to be a part of this. I got to make this happen. And we went from the entry level right up. It kind of just kept doing the steps to the pinnacles, F1 and Le Mans Group C. Those are to me, in my opinion, the 2 groups. And I have cars for both.
Wow.
Yeah.
How cool.
Yeah. So, and you know, it's weird. It's the only sport I've been really good at.
Yeah.
Where, you know, to be in the level. Now we're going, you know, racing from the best guys in Europe.
Can you talk about the physical impact racing? Like the guys that are doing it, I mean, you guys are super fit, you know, and it's not like you're on a Sunday drive. Like there's a lot of stamina involved.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I train every day for the car, and I'm 58. And I've been training basically all my life, but now I train. It's nice to train for something, so I train more specifically for the car. So, you know, high energy, not endurance, but bursts, because you need that, you know, and upper body strength, neck strength, forearm strength, shoulders, because you're doing a lot of kind of leaning like this and leaning up against the car. So yeah, you kind of train specifically. It is very tiring. I've played a bunch of different sports, but mentally, because it's the mental and physical.
Sure.
Because, you make a mistake in an old F1 car, it could be the last mistake you make.
Yeah.
So that's the only thing I don't like about modern F1. There's no consequences.
Yeah.
So they treat them like bumper cars. They didn't do that in the cars I drive.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it would be, it could be a bad day.
Yeah.
Most generally, it usually was a bad day.
Yeah.
So you kind of had a lot of respect for the other guys, and you weren't jamming it in there. And you made a pass, you made it clean.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
that is an interesting rabbit hole to go down. But man, that's one of the things I love about you is how diverse your background is and some of the stuff you've done. You're going back to helicopters.
Yeah.
You talked about the 500s.
Yeah.
Ontario, we started our program with the 500s and later transitioned to the 125s. But like you said, that was at the time, the law enforcement standard was the 500.
Yeah.
For a whole host of reasons. You talk about strapping into a 500, the performance that goes with flying in an MD product. If you're flying a Pursuit, there's probably nothing better than being in a light 500 that's fully capable of following a motorcycle in the tight streets of Pomona or something like that. Yeah. So you built the door mounts, the door kit. Can you talk about some of the products that followed after the door mount or the door kit?
So we went from the 500 door, the rapid removal door kit, and then that kind of morphed itself into the 500 dual side mount for the searchlight and the camera on one side. And then we did belly mounts for the 500, 600 when the 600 was kind of around. And then 206, 407, nose mounts, belly mounts, aft mounts for searchlights. So we had, so we kind of had all the 500, 350, 206, 407 covered. So I got to the point, well, I don't care what you buy. You're going to come talk to me about it, right? Somehow, somewhere. And then that grew to 212, 412, 429, 135, 145, and so on and so on type of thing.
It's wild to me when I think about the mission sets in public safety aviation. You think about how many people are involved in the successful completion of a mission. Now, let's take a suspect apprehension, for example.
Yeah.
You've got the folks in R&D for the aircraft, the folks in R&D for the mounting software or the mounting equipment, the folks in R&D for the camera, all the different components of the helicopter. And then you look at the maintenance staff that's maintaining the helicopters. And like the last two people are the ones that get the most notoriety usually,
right. Yeah.
the pilot and the TFO. But looking back, none of that would have been possible had it not been for the efforts that you put into developing this stuff. So to think about how many people that have been put behind bars, rightfully so, because of the work that you've done, it's mind-blowing, Yeah,
you go, especially when you start looking, grab one of your magazines, you start, especially, like Valor. I look at the Valor, it's like, yep, that's ours. And so you start to look at it that way, the big picture stuff, and or you go to the pig picking and watch the FLIR Awards and go, ours. Yeah. So that's when it really kind of sinks in a little bit more.
Yeah.
Because when you work at it every day, you go, oh, it's just normal.
Yeah.
But when you see it, that's why I like to take my team, who are mostly machinists and designers, to the shows so they can see. Because they're not. I'm an aircraft guy. They're not really aircraft people. But when they see it, it really sinks into them.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, this is important.
Right.
I tell them it's 100% QA, 100% of the time by 100% of the people. So it doesn't matter whose hands it passes through. I don't give a crap. It's got to be. Everyone's got to be thinking the exact same thing.
Yeah.
It's got to be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
We can't have a mistake.
Yep.
Because it's going to be the last one. It's just like the car.
Yeah.
There's one mistake.
Well, that's your business has proven that through the test of time. You've grown as a company. Your products have spread because of the quality that you put into the craftsmanship and the durability of the product itself. So, you can see why it's lasted as long as it has. What's interesting is when you look at the law enforcement mission equipment, it's changed fairly quickly in a short amount of time. Can you talk about what that change has looked like to you, and give us a little bit of insight into the STC process and how hard that is for you to develop a new product for that stuff?
Let's put it this way. My little saying for stuff like this one is, patents are for children, STCs are for men, because that's how difficult it really is. I wouldn't even bother with a patent comparatively to an STC. They're so hard to get. They are recognized worldwide, because we do everything all around the world. And you get some of the, people would say, well, don't go to China because they'll knock it off. No, they're the most, really, when it comes to, is it STC? That's the first question they ask, because that's the way they operate too.
Yeah.
So yeah, the process of doing that, getting the STC, design the product, and the other thing, a lot of people, even in the helicopter world, don't get, and is that when you do it, the paperwork's got to be right the first time, because doing revisions and redos is, that's another year and another year and another year. And when people look at the cost or the time it takes until they do one, then they look back and go, oh, I get it now. That's how difficult it can be. So, I tell people, look, I don't care really anything if it's going to be an STC, it's particularly on the outside of an airframe, because that means you're going to have to flight test it. It's like, I always say, it's like, give me 2 years' time and $500,000. And that's the rough numbers.
That's for one product.
For one product. So this is why we don't do, I have people come out all the time with another, and they're not bad ideas, but I look at them and go, if I can't sell 20 to 30 before I have the STC done, it's not worth me doing.
Yeah.
Because I'll never recoup the money.
Right.
I got to get back to zero. I'm not talking about even making money, but get back to zero.
Yeah.
So now, going back to what you were saying about how the industry has gone, what I see now is, which is really kind of warms my heart, are the EOIR camera guys, the searchlight guys, the LiDAR guys, whatever it might be on an external payload. They are designing to our bolt patterns, to the dovetail, to the quick disconnect. That's all become the industry standard. So now, over the years, I just always freely give solid models and blueprints away here. Just if you design it to this footprint, this interconnect, then you can fit on all our mounts, because we never make a mount that won't work with all the other mounts. So all the payloads for one mount, unless it's too big or too heavy, will work with every other mount. So this family, always thinking, because I kind of, the thing I do, I design for me. I don't design for anybody. I design for myself, because I know if I like it, it seems to work. Like the dovetails like that. That's our number one selling product. We sell about 1.5 to 2 per day, every day of the year.
For folks that aren't familiar with that, can you talk about that and what its purpose is?
Yeah, so basically, I always say, think of like a 35 millimeter camera on a tripod, and it slides on with a little dovetail. So that's what I thought, okay, well, the same idea. I would slide big cameras on, bigger dovetail. And there was dovetails before we came along. We were not, I don't think we've ever invented anything new. We've just done it better, right? And that's always, because, I don't think anyone's ever designed anything new since the wheel, as they say, right? But just do it better. And I saw the way these things were working, going, that's, and I suck at safety wire. Freaking terrible at it. Because I'm a metal guy, not a mechanic. So I go on, well, there's got to be a better way for a dovetail. Let's do it. So I went to Scott. I said, Scott, I got this idea. And he came up with this glorious, beautiful thing. I go, that's perfect. And, but what about safetying it? And I thought, well, the blade pins for an AS350 is a safety pin, a great big baby, a baby safety pin. So I took a blade pin from a 350 to a spring manufacturer in California, and the dovetail, I said, make it for this size. And they just took it and made it smaller. That's all that is. Because everybody knows what that is. They're all happy with it, and it works.
Yeah.
So you never have to safety wire.
Yeah.
So that's, and that's become, that bolt pattern is actually the 1965, 66 diamond pattern for the SX-16.
Okay.
So we didn't even design the bolt pattern. We just took what a lot of people were using, and then we grew. The other pattern was on the QDD. That's the 8 bolt pattern for the FLIR. We call it FLIR pattern.
Okay.
So we just said, okay, these are very common, very popular. Add the two together. That's the pattern we're going to use. So now we even have the movie guys coming into that pattern, and we make it so once again, if you can go back from the movie platform, which is a cone and a taper, which the police guys never see. You've never seen a cone and a taper.
No.
Movie guys until recently, have never seen a dovetail or QDD. So, but we make it so you can go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So we have guys making movies on one day, and they go do police work on the next day, and then LiDAR work the day after.
Yeah.
On the same mount. So that's what I've seen. Keep it common. It's like Microsoft. I don't care what laptop you get. That's what I always say. We're like Microsoft. I don't care what you get. We got a part for you. It will work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've seen all the different mission equipment. You've built stuff for just about everything that exists. Of all the projects and products you've built, what's been the most interesting and the most challenging project?
Thank you to our sponsor, Shotover. Shotover Systems is the leading developer and manufacturer of high-performance gyro-stabilized cameras with advanced real-time AR mapping and mission management, all backed by unparalleled custom training and support. Now offering the M2 multi-sensor system, sole 6-axis EO/IR platform with 4K Ultra HD color and infrared technology. Ideal for law enforcement and defense. Offered with real-time AR overlays to quickly identify streets, weather, and traffic. Automated license plate recognition, 24 megapixel digital photographs, and automated steering and tracking.
Probably the most challenging, believe it or not, has got to be the 172, 182, Cessna 182, 206, 172 wing strap mount. Reason being is there's so many models. So our AML list, have you ever heard of AML?
No.
So that's the approved model list on an STC.
Oh, okay, yep.
Right?
Yep.
So, you look at a 350, 125, you go what A, D, B, C, this type of thing, B2, B3, B3E, and that's it. You get to a 172, 172, 182, 206, it's 5 pages.
Wow.
So the matrix for doing it's just, it was a real mind-twisting paperwork more than anything. The flight test was very straightforward, but the paperwork side and the research side, I think we know more about strut mounts or Cessna struts than Cessna does, because they're not the same. That's the other thing we found out. They're not the same profile. So that was and the other nice thing about that particular STC was, after all these years of working in the helicopter business, you kind of get the same background, same mission system. Things are getting similar over time, and that introduced us to the fixed wing market, and that's a whole different world. Yeah. So that was a nice change. It was very difficult to do, but.
So if a traditional STC takes 2 years, let's say, to do, how long was this project until it was from start to finish to where people
5.
Okay. Wow.
5 years, off and on. It's because sometimes you get halfway through a job and other things come up, or a better idea, or not a better idea, but just something that's more pressing. You gotta pay the bills.
Yeah.
Right. So some things get pushed off to the side, and and other things you think you're going to sell, they're not all winners.
Yeah.
They're all good, but they're not as good as you expect, and some are better. So, that's a gamble you play with that STC process. It's a big gamble. Another thing, people who don't do it, but just buy them or understand what they mean, I don't think they see how much of the gamble it is.
Yeah.
Because if you don't get it right, or not if you don't get it right, you get it perfect. That doesn't mean it sells.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So that's what I'm very particular about, what we're going to do next.
Right.
Because you have to get it right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But going back to the industry,
and
I think everybody industry-wide is dealing with recruitment and retention problems.
Yeah.
From your perspective, whether it's on the AME side or the crew side, where do you see some room for growth in terms of the recruitment? How do we recruit better? How do we retain our folks better? Whether it's with you or some of the agencies that you work with. What from your perspective, what do you see?
To retain the folks better?
Yeah, or just recruitment from the beginning.
Here's the worst thing that ever happened to aviation. Fences. The worst thing. Because now the kids can't go to the airport like they could. That's how I started.
Yeah.
There weren't a lot of fences. The hangar was open. I wouldn't go in the hangar, but I stand there, watch. You usually get invited in.
Yeah.
I got all kind of different stories about sweeping up and sitting there, and I once got to bleed the brakes with I found out later, a top-ranking Luftwaffe ace.
Wow.
In his BF 108. And I had Gunther Balls is his name. I had no idea that he was actually a little kid. I found out later.
Wow.
Stuff like that.
Yeah.
Or the first time a guy named Jerry James let me sit in his P-51. But I was able at least to get up to the aircraft. And now the kids can't. I mean, I can't get in.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
That's I know it's there for security and the rest of it, but that's it. You got to get the kids closer.
Yeah. It's tough. I feel like
and actually I think law enforcement, they do a great job, because they're trying to build, a bond, a respect back and forth with the community, so they get the aircraft out in front of the kids. So they actually do a really good job. It's just the GA, but just the kids want to go. They see the planes. They see, let's go down the airport.
Yeah.
But that's there's how many airport bum kids are there? They're all over the place.
Right.
I'm one of them.
Yeah.
Right. But I could get close enough at that time.
I think about the AMPs and the AMEs, depending on where you're at. If you're mechanically inclined, I think from a young age, you're kind of drawn to that.
Yeah.
But aviation, and in particular helicopter aviation, may not be the first thing you think of. Even though everyone looks at a helicopter, you're like, how do I do that? That's awesome. What advice do you have for the industry? Is to make it that, how do I do that, and then draw kind of a clear line to get to that place?
Well, I think you've got to, every time anyone younger wants to talk about it, and tell them, hey, I came from nothing. We went all the way. So it can be done. And if you are somehow inclined mechanically, electronically, you want to fly, anything can be done. But, I try to, when I see younger kids, because I'm always the guy, I'll be the guy holding the gate open. Come on in.
Yeah.
Even though I'm not supposed to do it, come on in. Because you got to get them out there.
Yeah.
And, go back to the cars. When I'm at the track, that's my goal. How many kids can I get in my car? Because they'll never forget that. How many kids can you get inside and put them in a helicopter seat?
Yeah.
You're not going anywhere, but just put them in the seat.
Yeah.
Because they will not forget that.
No.
And I don't. Like I said, I remember dead on watching that P-51 come into Pitt Meadows Airport when it was a short runway, and that was interesting in itself, and then he let me sit in it.
And, what you said's dead on. I think everybody remembers that first time they interacted with aviation.
Yeah.
That first time a pilot approached him and was nice to him, or the AMP, the IA was nice to him, whatever the thing is. But you remember that moment.
Never forget it.
So I think for us, it's important to pay it forward. How could I then be in that position to encourage somebody to pursue this career? Because it's awesome. Like you said, the community that's here, you don't find many places, in my opinion.
But we should, what we could do, even say the show, Heli Expo. Well, the one that could do it way better is HAC. I mean, the cost of just going in is unobtainable. Yeah. It should be, it should be basically the cost of print the ticket to get the kids in. Let them. You don't have to be kids, but let the schools, local schools, know. Hey, come on down. They should have a school day. They do it here. I don't know if they still do. They used to do that, like it was a school day. They do this at Paris and Farnborough.
Yeah.
It's a free day type of thing. Just get the kids access, because that's the problem. It always seems too far away.
Yeah.
They don't see it up close. They can't touch it and feel it. Yeah. And meet people, because as soon as they meet people, and I was super, super, super blessed that literally my biggest influence as a little guy was my uncle. Pilot, helicopter pilot, had his own 500. I mean, the whole thing. Started the war. He started the Mosquito that you see at Kelowna Flightcraft now. He was the first guy that started that. So when your big idol is your own uncle, so it puts you a lot closer to home, right? But I was still an airport bum kid, even because he got me thinking about it, right? And I was close enough to be able to ride down the airport. So yeah, it's just that. But those little things in life really kind of give you direction on what you want to do. It's like when I started flying, I going, I love flying, but I don't want to do this professionally. Mm-hmm. As soon as I got my commercial license, that was the day I go, I don't want to do this. Mm-hmm. Not it'd be fun. I still, I fly my own airplane, but not for work. Yeah. Yeah. I'm actually impressed with people that do it. I understand why they do it. Yeah. I just, have different mindsets.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's important to have that different skill set. Because, you're on the mechanical side of things. You've got that mechanical aptitude, and like I said, it takes a lot of people to make these missions possible and successful. And you've been a huge part of that. So I smile again because we've talked quite a few times, and I think we've convinced you quite a few times to come on the podcast. So we actually got you here today. Yeah. We trapped you somehow.
Trapped me somehow.
But it's been really cool to sit here and talk with you, getting some insight as to how the business started. some of the projects you've been a part of. I'd like to talk briefly about where you are now. You're recently part of an acquisition. Can you talk about that and where the company's going forward?
Yeah, so we got, I started this 17, 18, I started the company when I was, God, I don't know the years, but since 97, so it's been a long haul. And then it was one of those offers you couldn't refuse on a good company. And then, of course, there's a lot of hesitation, regardless of what the numbers are. And then after the fact, a year later, so it's basically a year later, almost to the day, it's been better than I thought.
Yeah.
They've said what they were going to do, and everything's been up and up, and they've left me alone. And really, once we got the accounting part done, because that was the hardest part of the whole deal, was going from, because they would Signia Aerospace reports as if they were publicly traded, so you go from reporting once a year to like twice a month. So that's that was a big thing. That was hard to get through, but past that, they just do your thing. You're doing great. Keep going. Go down the road, and I love that part.
That's cool.
Yeah, because I was doing all the AR and AP, all the accounting. So that part's been so my work week is, I don't work 7 days now.
Yeah, good for you.
I just work 5 days because it was a 7-day. AR and AP is a big job.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's been off my plate now. So we just concentrate on what's coming up and new things, and so we've got 3, 4 STCs rolling.
Wow.
Yeah. With the big one for next year, it'll be Black Hawk. We got 4 different mounts for the Hawk. Actually, that's a pretty easy one in that with public service, where we've had those mounts flying for many years, LA County Fire. Different air methods on the Cal Firebirds. So these mounts have lots of, literally thousands, some of them have thousands and thousands of hours of time. So when you go to an STC flight test with the FAA, you're not sitting there sweating bullets going, I hope it works.
Yeah.
I've done that.
It's proven the test of time already.
Yeah, right. He's like, whatever, let's just go knock it off or knock it out type of thing. So that's a nice feeling. But I've definitely been the other way. Where it's like, holy shit, I hope this works. A lot of people standing around. I mean, it's going to work, but is it going to work?
Right.
Right. It's not going to fall off, but is it going to work?
Yeah.
Right. There's the aircraft not going to like it. Because, I've seen all kind of, you wouldn't believe the scrap bin.
Oh, bad.
we got a pretty substantial scrap bin.
A lot of money material there.
A lot of money material. Yeah. Oh shit, that's not right. No, go back and do it again. This type of thing, or then they change the aircraft, the configuration, and they don't have to change it much.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it's like, well, that doesn't work. And well, like for instance, the big one is right now is the crash-worthy fuel tank. So your belly mounts in a 350 down. They're gone. So we got to go back and think of other things, different ways to do it. The 130s turned out to be the same problem. So you get safety one way, but now we got to go.
Rework something else.
Got to work something else, right?
Yeah.
So we got to go back around and figure something out. So yeah, there's always different obstacles, but now with let's go back to having the people that make different products that mount to or attach to the mounts, searchlights, cameras, LiDAR, this type of thing. Now they just designed our patterns.
That's cool.
Yeah, so the first guys, believe it or not, the first guys to really do it the first time was the Westcam MX-10, where they just put the damn bolt pattern right at the top of the camera. So now you just bolt the MX-10 to it, and it just makes life so easy.
Yeah.
Right, because now if you want to do a demo, slide one on,
right,
and off you go. So, but now everyone's kind of seems to be on that path.
That's so cool. Yeah. And they're building their stuff to your specifications. That's a huge accomplishment, but it's a huge nod to the success of what you've done, Thank you to our sponsor, Metro Aviation. Metro Aviation, the world's largest family-owned aeromedical operator, offers comprehensive aircraft services with 140-plus aircraft in over 25 states. The Completion Center installs medical and law enforcement kits and avionics, serving diverse aviation needs including offshore, utility, VIP, and corporate sectors.
Yeah, it's that does warm the heart going down there. And with somebody else, big companies are doing that, and and asking, like, will this work? And say, yeah, you're off and running. Especially like the LiDAR guys, because LiDAR went from a very fixed wing market, now it's into the rotary wing, and it's just gone. It's a big deal for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Which is like, once again, being a law enforcement guy, you wouldn't see that aspect of the business or the movies and that production work, and that's the movie's a big game.
Yeah.
LiDAR's a big game
Yeah.
for what we do.
Right.
It's not just all the police and utility.
It's been cool to see the different technologies come into law enforcement and the public safety, and to see how that's improving our mission effectiveness, making us more efficient in what we're doing. Of all the things you've seen cross over into law enforcement, what do you think's the most progressive technology that we're dealing with right now?
Oh, I guess. I'm so old to go back to, what was the map company?
No,
the map, the book.
Oh, Thomas Brothers.
Yeah. Well, I remember that. I remember the guys in the helicopter doing this kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that overlay now, and now the overlay that says, okay, we know this house has had this many different incidences.
Yeah.
I just look at that. Or tell the camera you're miles away, and it's already pointing at the house, and you're getting the information.
Yeah.
So coming from having done a lot of flight tests to make cameras not shake.
Yeah.
So, but always looking at it, at the screen, going, now it's just that to me is that is a TFO guy can have all that information.
Oh, it's crazy.
Long before they get there.
Yeah.
And
the overlays for me changed the whole game.
Yeah, it's got to. From a TFO standpoint, I could just imagine your mind's got to be blown.
Oh man, it was all of a sudden this job's a lot less difficult than it was. It was still hard. But man, it really made that job a lot easier. And the mental bandwidth is still going somewhere else. So you're now able to focus on something that's more important and actually apprehending someone a little more efficiently than some of the nuances that go with like knowing the address you're looking at and all the memory power it took just to remember what you're looking at. Now it says for you, you know, which is really cool.
Especially, I watch when they have the best takedowns and stuff on but we listen to the guy going, he's north on such a street. Now he's turned south. He's like going east and he's going, but there it is. Because before you're just doing it off the top of your head,
right?
And guys, you could just tell that's not going to work well in a big city, right? Especially if you're not from that. It's one thing if you're from that neighborhood,
right?
But we're talking downtown LA to
you get in a pursuit and you go to an adjoining city or a city that's not adjoining, and you're like, I don't know where I'm at.
Yeah,
you have
no clue. But now, that's to me when I see that, and because or the ability of the camera. Because I remember 2-axis. Watching, we were doing a lot of anti-vibration back in the day and trying to make cameras so you could just not go crazy because it was bouncing all over the place.
Right.
To now, now we get pretty fussy. Because if you get, especially a young TFO, go, well, that's just the way it is. Go, no, that's not.
You have no clue.
You have no clue. He's looking at an MX-15 or a 380 and going, no, it wasn't always like that.
Yeah.
He's 2 miles out and reading watching this guy's face very carefully.
Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah. And then you go and then working with the movie guys and 1,000 by 50 lenses and they're 7 miles slant.
Jeez, that's crazy.
This type of thing.
Well, in closing, can you just talk about this show a little bit for folks that haven't been to European Rotors? Can you talk about the benefit of coming here and why you like this show?
Oh, yeah. Well, we've been doing this all the way back to what people would call Helitech. That was kind of the original thing. That was a great show. That was probably maybe the best show I've ever done when it was at Duxford, because you had all the warbirds there and
that's cool.
And you had the helicopters right out front, the front door, and the glass, and everyone could see everything. That was just, I guess we don't realize at the time, we didn't realize how special it was. But the European market for us particularly, we're looking at 40-45% of our market, which is obviously very significant. And the show is, I came here as once again walking it, sleeping in the lowest budget hotel I could find, or the hostel or whatever it might be, and slowly working up to the 10 by 10, but that in fact I gave a mount. I remember this. I gave a mount, an AC-135 mount, to Airbus UK.
Okay.
And I said, hey, and I just left it there, and they used it because it worked better. And that was our first foray into major law enforcement. Customer was National Police Air Service and PAS and London Metropolitan. And now they're like on the third or fourth set.
Yeah, wow.
Right. So and that just grew and grew and grew. And of course, once again, the mounts and the Europeans, they just, like the American mindset. Hey, if it's a good product, we don't care. We don't care if you're a 5-man company or now I think we're 15, 16 now. But at the time, it was like Scott, myself, and one machine.
Yeah.
And Sarah. It was pretty tightly run ship.
Right.
Yeah. But they, if the quality's there, you can touch it, feel it, see it.
Right.
Yeah.
I think for me coming here and seeing that not only the problems we have in the U.S. exist over here, but the camaraderie exists over here as well.
Oh, hell yeah.
It's really cool to see that.
Absolutely. Well, it's, like I said, it's a helicopter business. You can go anywhere anywhere, but here and you start talking helicopter, people know.
Yeah.
They understand. They know the lingo.
Yeah.
And it's not a huge business where people don't know what you're doing.
Yep.
Or you can at least relate to what they're up to.
Yeah.
I guess what I noticed any show lately is the amount of sim training.
Oh, it's cool.
I mean, that has just exploded.
Yeah.
I feel bad for these people because, I've always been the one guy where, I'm not used to competition. So it's very competitive in some of these markets.
Mm-hmm.
Really, really competitive. And I kind of lose sight of that sometimes going, it's just, you don't really have a lot of competition that way other than the OEMs. But yeah, these guys are, it's very interesting to see what you can do now without ever actually touching a helicopter and the training level.
Think about being a new student, all the money it takes to get flight time. Well, pretty soon you're going to be able to get some of that, if not a lot of that, through VR sim flight, and so it takes something that's really hard financially to attain and makes it even a little bit more attainable,
And that might open up, once again, younger people getting into it because now they can play at home, literally play it, do it at home.
Yeah.
I see this with the kids racing cars. I have kids coming up and they go and they've raced. Oh, I've raced your car. I go, no, you haven't. Yeah, right. And I go, oh, yeah, I guess you have actually, right? Yeah.
That's wild. A video game.
Yeah.
Do you ever think your car would be part of a video game? They'd talk like what you just said.
Yeah. No, I mean, they have old cars in there, and I know that some of the stuff is very similar. I don't do sims.
Yeah.
I don't. My stomach doesn't.
Yeah.
It's fun. I can do the real thing, but I can't do the sim.
It's tough. I have a hard time with them too. The full motion sims
I did a
tough.
full motion Porsche Cup sim. I lasted about 15 minutes. That was it. It was done.
Yeah.
And it doesn't give you the. I don't know. I just I'm not a sim guy, but a lot of the kids who come up and look at the car, they'll say, "Oh yeah, what do you think of Spa?" I go, "Oh, you raced there." I go, "Well, no, I simmed there." Oh yeah. What's Eau Rouge like to really? What's that like? And so but that's a great. What we're talking about accessibility to younger kids is that they can go online or go on their computer and play a VR game for a helicopter or whatever. They go, man, they really get because if you've done fixed wing or rotary wing, you know how difficult it is to do.
Right.
By nature, it's just not easy.
It's always really challenging for me to describe to somebody how hard it is to fly a helicopter. And the one thing I always say, it's like if there's a fire hydrant that breaks off in the ground and there's a geyser of water coming out of the ground, it's like balancing the ball on top of that geyser of water and you're trying to walk on the ball. It was really tough, but it still doesn't really describe how hard it is to fly a helicopter to me. To this day, learning to fly and becoming proficient as a pilot was probably my biggest accomplishment. I remember thinking in the beginning, I don't know if this is going to work out for me. This is tough.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
you stood there going, I'll never be able to, I'll never get the hover button. There's no such thing.
Yeah. Well, man, it's been cool to sit here and talk to you, and I look forward to having some drinks again at some point and hearing some more fun stories. But congratulations on the success of the company.
Thank you.
It's definitely something that you've put the time and effort into building. Didn't come by accident. You built this over a long period of time through a lot of hard work and just amazing dedication to the industry. So thank you for making all these missions possible with your equipment. Thank you for your dedication and passion for what we're doing. And again, it's cool to sit here with you. So
Thanks
thank you.
for everyone for believing in us and give us that was the nice thing. That was, I always say to people, I'm living the American dream, because that's what I love about the American, what's the word? Just the look on life is, hey, look, we don't care what, you make a good product, you do a good job, that's fine with us.
Yeah.
Because, I literally had almost every law enforcement agency in America as a customer before I had one Canadian agency.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that was a mindset.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's mindsets in certain areas where, well, if you're not a big company, you can't possibly know what you're doing.
Right.
Where the American mindset is like, we don't care.
Yeah.
Is it good?
As long as it's good.
As long as it's good, we're good to go.
Right. Alrighty, sir.
Okay.
Well, thank you again, and
you.
we will we'll catch you next time.
Yes, sir. Thank
Cheers.
you. Cheers.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Hangar Z podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe to hear more stories that promote the personnel and equipment behind the missions in public safety aviation. Lastly, stand by for a message after a word from our sponsors. Cheers. Thank you to our sponsor, Metro Aviation. Metro Aviation, the world's largest family-owned aeromedical operator, offers comprehensive aircraft services with 140 plus aircraft in over 25 states. The Completion Center installs medical and law enforcement kits and avionics, serving diverse aviation needs including offshore, utility, VIP, and corporate sectors.
Thanks to our sponsor, Anodyne Electronics Manufacturing, a leading manufacturer of trusted special mission avionics for law enforcement, aerial firefighting, and utility operators. Visit www.aem-corp.com and learn how AEM's digital communication and loudspeaker systems, avionics consoles, radios, and specialty audio products can support your most demanding missions. Thank you to our sponsor, Shotover. Shotover Systems is the leading developer and manufacturer of high-performance gyro-stabilized cameras with advanced real-time AR mapping and mission management, all backed by unparalleled custom training and support. Now offering the M2 multi-sensor system, sole 6-axis EO/IR platform with 4K Ultra HD color and infrared technology. Ideal for law enforcement and defense. Offered with real-time AR overlays to quickly identify streets, weather, and traffic. Automated license plate recognition, 24 megapixel digital photographs, and automated steering and tracking.
Thank you for tuning into this episode of the Hangar Z podcast, brought to you by Vertical Helicasts and in partnership with Vertical Valor Magazine. We hope you enjoyed our conversation with Cal Meeker, founder of Meeker Aviation. It's clear that Cal's passion for aviation, coupled with his dedication to enhancing public safety through innovative equipment, has played a critical role in our industry. As we discuss, the journey of creating quality products in aviation is filled with challenges and triumphs. Cal's insights remind us the importance of commitment and the future of our field. We encourage you to explore more about Meeker Aviation and consider how you can contribute to the next generation of public safety aviators. Don't forget to subscribe to the Hangar Z podcast for more inspiring stories from the world of public safety aviation. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a review and give it a share. Join us next time for more discussions that elevate the conversations in the public safety aviation community. Cheers.
Time to close up the hangar. Thanks for joining us on the Hangar Z podcast, brought to you by Vertical Helicasts.